Anu, La'asok, B'divrei Torah.
Now, I once had a problem when I was a college student and I was working in a conservative movement summer camp. And I went with my parents to a restaurant, and it was reported back to the head of the camp that Stanley Davids was seen eating ribs or some trafe in public, and that can't be for a member of our camp staff. And I was called in and severely criticized. You never know when you're having dinner with someone and someone else spots you. And the fact is, of course, that I would never have eaten the ribs, but that didn't matter. So those of you who saw me having dinner last night with Lynn Wertheim, absolutely nothing happened. Okay? Nothing, right? Okay? Except the food was good and we had a lovely side-by-side evening. So there you go. Natalie, I see you, and I'm going to ask you, do you know anything about Michael and what's happening? I mean, you have to unmute, please.
Muting right now. A terrible thing happened Thanksgiving Day. A really terrible thing happened. We were all waiting to go out for this early dinner, our whole family. Meryl, my daughter, oh, there's Donna. Do you want to tell it or should I tell it? Okay. They were in their home getting ready to go out in a little while to meet us all. And a group of Palestinian protesters found their home, which is a block south of our synagogue.
In Brentwood.
In Brentwood, just one block south of the synagogue, were these group, they might have been about 15 of them, in masks, in black masks. They had Palestinian flags. They were screaming at the Jews and screaming. They had fake blood, red stuff they were throwing on the house. And they also have these little gas things that look like bombs. Fortunately for Meryl and Michael, they have wonderful neighbors. They came running out, screaming at them, pulling off their flags, and of course they had called the police. It took about 15 minutes for the police to get there. By that time, the Palestinians, I think, had run away. So here, you all know, Michael is the president of AIPAC, and he is very prominent in the Jewish community and elsewhere. It is so bad. There is a guard now in front of their house, and Michael has a personal guard with him at all times, in addition. And this is driving me crazy. So there we go about America, what is happening in this country. When it touches you yourself, you realize of all the craziness that's going on. That people, whomever you are, you can be found, you can be traced. The way it is now with the iPad, the computer, this virus went around in 2 minutes. Everybody in the world knew what had happened. So this is scary. This is very scary.
I acknowledge that. Donna, do you want to toss in a word before we move forward, please?
I think my mother pretty much covered it. It's very distressing. One little charming detail she left out was that they had tossed these bundles, which were supposed to be babies, with blood all over them, with fake blood all over them, all over the place. And they had wanted posters with Michael's picture on it saying wanted for genocide.
Oh my God.
So.
Oh my God.
Yep. It's.
If you would, Natalie, Donna, please express to Michael, to his family, and to the world how we are all just enormously distressed, and sending prayers and hope and understanding to them. And we are with them. And I don't know what else to say, but that there's a whole group of people who are serious Torah scholars who are really upset. Is that okay to do? I mean, like, on behalf of everybody? Yeah.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was Thanksgiving?
Yeah, outside of that, Mrs. Lincoln.
We actually went on with our Thanksgiving as normal, and everyone was at my house till 11 o'clock playing games after we had a very nice dinner. But this is what we talk about in this Torah. And last week when I said some negative things, this is the real world out there. This is the real world where there is so much evil. And I don't know where this is going on. I just heard on the news that now the Palestinians are not giving back the hostages, our hostages, so quickly.
Today, yeah. They're holding them up today, yeah.
What's happening with that is sort of simple. By delaying the return of the next group of hostages, they are automatically extending the ceasefire. I mean, it's a pretty clever move. If they delay, that means that the ceasefire is not going to be 4 days. It can be 5 days. It can be. That's in my humble estimation, what's going on.
And no Americans today.
Yeah. So in any event, just to mention that yesterday, a large group of pro-Palestinians converged on the Grove during Black Friday, and they tried to, quote, make it clear that there will be no business as usual until Palestine is free. They disrupted traffic and disrupted business. That was yesterday. They had a much better protest in New York during the Macy's Day Parade,
right.
in which some of the Palestinians glued themselves to the sidewalk of the parade, the street on which the parade was marching. I hope that they're still stuck there. Okay. So I'm sorry. I mean, this is our family, and when Natalie and Donna are experiencing this, we are experiencing it with them, and so we understand what solidarity is. Calendar going forward. Tuesday evening, November 28th, I'm speaking at Temple Akiba about the book, which is funny. It's happening. December 3rd, I've been invited to address the Hebrew Union College Board about the book. The good thing is that that's a Hanukkah celebration, and they serve latkes and caviar. So, so that's probably the peak experience. Wednesday, November 29th is our next current events, a gathering, Wednesday, November 29th. I already have a special little presentation that I'm going to be making there. I have an excellent presentation on what Jewish law says about redeeming captives. And is there a limit to what one can do to redeem captives? And that'll be part of what will be Wednesday, December 6th. Cindy, what do you have?
Nothing this week, but December 13th, we're having Hanukkah in Santa Monica at Froman's, and it'd be lovely to have a Torah study table there. So hopefully you'll all come, bring friends, bring family. It's no host, but you do need to register because Susie will save you a seat if you do.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And I'm speaking it's to the sisterhood when? When is the date?
December 13th, no, December 6th at 11 o'clock. Risa will have the link. It's the same sisterhood link, so she can send it out to Chevra Torah. We could put it in the chat or whatever you want to do.
Super. Thank you for that.
You'll be talking in person at the sisterhood board meeting, but we will also do a Zoom for anyone who wants to attend.
Right. Are you serving blintzes? Excuse me, latkes and caviar?
Ask Risa, it's at your house.
And we're getting pizza. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Jim is not on. Does anyone know if there's a movie?
No,
Okay.
not this week. Not this week.
Okay. So my lesson plan today said begin with a prayer again for the Chatufim, for the kidnapped. I just hope and pray that there are enough people in the world who care about justice and who care about humanity and who care about what it takes to obliterate evil in our world. And I certainly pray for the children still being held captive and the children who are suffering on all sides. And the way it looks that the war will resume in another 4, 5, 6 days, we don't know. I pray for peace. I saw a posting, and I never follow these well. David said, would you post the full title of your book? You want a full title of the book? The book? Oh my God. David, you want extra credit for today. I have in my hot little hand a copy of the book. There it is. And it's called Reforming Judaism. Reforming Judaism. And there it is.
The iPad in the dining room. You can come here and use it.
Okay. Okay. So here we go. We have that.
Where can we get it?
It can be ordered through the CCAR Press. And I think it's also available. Risa, I think it's available on Amazon. It is. It is available on Amazon.
Could you repeat the name again?
Reforming Judaism, RE dash. Now, when I come to the sisterhood gathering with Cindy and friends, I will be bringing some books with me if you want to buy them there. If you do, you get them at my discount. Not, my discount. You know how much that brings into my pocket? Nothing. But zero. Thank you, Risa, for pointing that out. But in any event, they give me an allocation of books that I can sell at discount, and Sisterhood certainly ranks as a place where that can happen. So rather than ordering at Amazon, you can wait until we come to Sisterhood, and then I have enough for that. Okay, we're going to move forward now. I have to tell you, I'm a little bit rocked by the description from Donna and Natalie, and I'm just more than a little bit upset, and I'm sure you are too. And forgive me
For sure.
a little bit off. We're going to Genesis 29:13, page 197 in the Plout, 197. It took the police 15 minutes to get there. I bet if somebody had been double parked on the street, they would have been faster. But that's just me talking. Okay, so 197, 29:13. So here we have the situation. We're in Vayetze. We are just running barefoot through Genesis. We are Genesis chapter 29, verse 13. And here, each step in the book of Genesis is an effort to put in place the building blocks of the Jewish people, right? We agree and we understand that this is reading backward into history. The Jewish people already exist by the time the authors of this passage have completed the editing and the writing of the passage. Okay, so that we have every reason to believe that these passages, the book of Genesis, much of the Torah, being re-edited, finished, reworked around 520, 530, 510 BCE. Remember, 586 was when the southern kingdom, Judah, was destroyed, taken into captivity, and there was a 50-year Babylonian captivity and then a return. And in the return, so in the 530s, 520s, 510, in the return, a major editing, writing process was undertaken, never announced by the rulers, because the rulers didn't exist, but as a natural expression of the Jewish people's attempt to find its own identity. These items were put together. And therefore, we're looking at something which is written as if it happened 1,000 years before that.
Oh.
And we have to accept that.
Yeah.
So now somebody is talking, I'm hearing, and I'm
Ellen.
sorry. Okay, I don't know where that is. Okay. Upon hearing the news of his sister's son Jacob, Laban ran out to greet him, hugging and kissing, and brought him. Then Jacob told Laban what happened, and Laban, in wonderful Middle Eastern fashion, said the equivalent of, "Trust me, your family, I love you."
I was so quiet.
There's still somebody talking.
It's Helen. Okay, she just muted.
Okay. And Laban said, "You're my bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh," and whatever. And that holds up until Laban cheats him. So we accept that. It is like saying today, the aid trucks are slow in coming, so we're not releasing hostages. It's anything that you want to do. It's the Middle East. It's a strange place. So I want to point out that the rabbis dump on Laban. He is not going to emerge from this as a good guy. As a matter of fact, almost everything the rabbis will write in their creative commentaries on what is happening here, they will make it look bad. They will make it look bad. And now eventually he's going to put Leah in instead of Rachel and the whole. What was Laban really after, the rabbis asked themselves as they prepared to answer? What was Laban really after? He wanted money. He knew that Jacob came from a well-to-do family already, Abraham, Isaac. They knew all that. And he knew that gifts were being brought. When Rebecca was being courted, she got remember all the bracelets and the gold and all that, right? So Laban basically said to his beloved relative, "I'm in it for as much as I can get," which is a very lovely way to treat your family. That's nice. So they didn't like him. He was looking for wealth. He was looking for gold coins. He was looking for pearls. He was looking for other precious stones. That was it. So now we move to verse 14, the flattery. The flattery. And we don't have to read this as anything other than flattery. It's just, he's putting out there stuff that probably in the story, Jacob didn't even bother believing. Laban then said to Jacob, just because you are my kin, should you serve me for nothing? Tell me you want to. Jacob wanted to marry Rachel. He suddenly found himself like an indentured servant. He suddenly found himself, Laban says, you're going to come, you'll work, you'll marry my daughter, but I don't want you to work for nothing. What is it you want to get? By the time Laban is over manipulating, Jacob is locked into a 7-year employment contract. Okay? And I guess Jacob had to write a thank you letter as well. And you're going to stay with him a whole month. Tell me what you want to be paid. Now, here comes the story. Now, Laban has 2 daughters. The elder was Leah, and the younger was Rachel. What do you know about those names? Can someone just kind of fill in? What do you know about those names? What do you know about Leah? What do you know about Rachel? How do they fit into the story? Okay, Cindy.
That Leah had either poor vision or cross-eyed. She wasn't as attractive as the beautiful Rachel.
Okay, that's yeah, and there's more. What about, their place in Jewish identity, Jewish history? Who are these people?
Well, the mother of the 12 tribes, most of the 12 tribes.
Yeah. So Leah and Rachel are matriarchs. They are 2 of the matriarchs, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, right? So they are the progenitors of the Jewish people. As Cindy properly noted, that's not exactly true. Why is it not exactly true? Donna.
We forgot about the 2 servants or whatever, concubines that were the mothers of 4 of the tribes.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's kind of like they were erased from the pages of Jewish history. They exist. They're named.
Bilhah, Zilpah.
Yeah, Bilhah and Zilpah, they're named. Okay, they're named. But every time we get into when a rabbi speaking magnificently speaks of the 4 mothers of Israel, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, no one calls out from the congregation, what about Bilhah and Zilpah? Okay, so we have some of the early founders of the tribes. We have Bilhah and Zilpah also being mothers of Israel, but they did not hire a proper PR firm and they lost out. Okay, and it's kind of fascinating. The rabbis will answer that by saying that since they were maid servants assigned to either a Rachel or Leah, then really the children belonged to Rachel and Leah that the maidservants had with Jacob. Okay, so they whatever, and it's a strange phenomenon. Now, Laban had 2 daughters, Leah and Rachel. Who were Rachel's children? Who were Rachel's children? I see 2 hands up, but I'm always willing to wait for another hand or 2. Rachel's children. Who were they? Okay, Donna, you may name one, and Cindy, you may name one.
Reuben.
No.
No, Joseph and Benjamin.
Oh, I thought you said Leah.
I probably did because my mind is a mist. But what I'm going to give you another shot and try to clarify.
What was the
who was one of the sons of Rachel?
Joseph.
Benjamin.
Joseph.
And
Okay.
Benjamin.
Benjamin. Okay. Benjamin's birth was a little, that's me, it's on me. Donna, it's on me. I won't report you to anybody. It's me. The birth of Benjamin resulted in what?
Rachel's death.
Rachel's death. So Rachel had two children, Joseph and Benjamin. And we'll remember this when we get a little bit later on, when Joseph is in Egypt. Remember all this? And he starts playing around and basically threatening Benjamin. You have to understand Benjamin's really special role. Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah, and Benjamin was Rachel's kid, the youngest of the sons. And it was a way of leveraging Isaac's behavior. So very, 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 very interesting how it all works. Okay, now, verse 17, here it comes. Do we have any ophthalmologists in our group? I don't think so. Maybe the only category we don't have. Okay, Leah's eyes were weak, it says, but Rachel was beautiful of form and of face. Jacob was in love with Rachel, so he said, I will work for you for 7 years for your younger daughter, Rachel. Of course, this could never be written today, because what does love have to do with beauty? And why are external matters applied? And, it has totally a very unfortunate set of circumstances. But there you are. Leah's eyes, according to the Hebrew text, were rakot. Rakot. Rach. The good news is nobody can translate that well. The good news is the rabbis argued over what does it mean that her eyes were whatever, weak. What does that mean? So once the rabbis cannot understand exactly what a word means, they move in to teach a lesson. It doesn't matter whether that was the intention of the author, the rabbis are going to teach the lesson. What was Leah's problem? First answer, Jacob didn't love her because she worried too much. I just thought that was, that is a mainstream response. She was so worried that she wept. She wept a lot. Why was she worried? Because she was afraid that her father was setting her up to marry somebody else. Who was running around in our text right now whom Laban might want to marry Leah off to? May I assure you, it ain't in the Torah. Okay, but that doesn't stop the rabbis from creating the situation. Anyone know?
Esau?
Who said that? You destroyed my lesson plan.
Sorry.
Okay, so nevertheless, Esau was out there. Jacob and Esau, the brothers, right? Esau. And Leah was worried that she would be forced to marry Esau. And so she wept and she complained, and Jacob couldn't handle it. I don't know. Is there any way, Barbara, someone can pull the blind down? You have sun directly in your eyes. Yeah, I don't want you. People suffer enough in my classes. Okay, that's a little bit better. Yes, thank you. Okay, you're better? Okay, all right, thank you. So she didn't want to have to marry Esau. As a matter of fact, the rabbi said she could be tender and loving. How did they get to that? We haven't read it here, but how do they get to Leah being a good person? Rachel has trouble conceiving. Leah is producing kids on an assembly line. And what does Leah do? She sets it up for Jacob to spend more time with Rachel. Okay? That's a nice thing. So the rabbis say, okay, maybe she was a fetch, maybe she whined, maybe she was afraid, turned Jacob off, but this was a very good woman. So why did Jacob turn to Rachel? Says nothing about her qualities, except she was gorgeous. And the rabbis go into this full time. You might ask me, Stan, how gorgeous was she? You're not interested in asking me that?
Stan, how gorgeous was she?
Thank you. Okay. Every limb and every organ of her body was perfectly formed. She was phenomenally beautiful in every physical way. Where was Rachel buried? Was she buried? Was she buried in Machpelah with Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebecca?
She was buried in Rachel's tomb.
Yeah. Where?
In Rachel's tomb.
On the road to Bethlehem.
On the side of the road.
Wait a second. Did you just say that Rachel was buried in Rachel's tomb?
Well, that's what I said. I don't know if it's true.
Okay. It's when we lived in New York, it was, who's buried in Grant's tomb? And then we would discuss it for a while and we came up with Grant. Yeah, that's a New York joke. Fine. She was buried. What, Donna, what do you have?
I said on the side of the road,
On
essentially.
the side of the road.
Towards Bethlehem.
Yes, yes, and yes. Why was she buried there? The rabbis say because when the Israelites were taken captive into Babylonia, they passed by her burial place. And there she was weeping for them and praying for them and comforting them. So they take Rachel and they give her this incredible place. I would recommend if you look at any place in the Bible, but I would say the book of Jeremiah, chapter 31. But, that's the one. And it says Rachel is weeping for her children because they are no more. And so Rachel is portrayed forever as the mother of Israel, standing next to the road along which they are trudging into exile. She is weeping and strengthening them. So this Rachel and Leah. I'm just going to ask, can we ease up on our criticism of poor Leah? She deserves better than what has happened. Now, I want to ask you a question. Jacob expects to spend that first night with Rachel. Instead, look what happens here. Rachel was beauty, da-da. Laban said, oh, I would rather give you Rachel than to any other man, which, by the way, is what the rabbis hook to say that Leah was afraid of Esau, any other man. I mean, okay, so they hook on that. So I'd rather give her to you. Trust me, you are bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. I love you, your family. Rachel, oh, I'd love to give her to you. Terrific. So Jacob worked for 7 years, and it just seemed like a few days. He was in a haze. I will soon marry Rachel. This will be great. And then Jacob goes to Laban, okay, my 7 years are up. Give me my wife, right? I have filled my term with her. And the text is rather blunt. Verse 21, Vayomer Yaakov el Lavan, Jacob says to Laban, give me my wife. Ki mal'u yamai, my days have been fulfilled, right? And then these wonderful two words, Va'avo avoha eleha, I want to have sex with her. It's sort of, poor Jacob has been waiting 7 years. And in those days, maybe they had different rules about how, what happens in an engagement. In any event, Jacob is saying, I'm dying here. Let me have my wife, right? So Laban invited all the people. They had a party. He took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, who had sex with her. It doesn't say made love. The Hebrew had sex with her. Do you think Leah knew what was going on? How does that work? For 7 years, she watched Jacob mooning over Rachel, working, tending the flocks, and Laban saying, oh, Rachel is your wife. Then wedding night, Jacob says to Leah, get in bed with him. Now, I'm going to assume that it was a wedding party that had alcoholic beverages, and that it's possible that Jacob was somewhat high. It could be he wasn't able to be clearly discerning what was going on. Folks, help me. What was going on in Leah's head? What was going on in Leah's head? What do you think? Okay, so I see David. David, what's going on? His father says, okay, honey, now get into this man's bed tonight. You're marrying him.
Well, there's many variations of the thought, but Laban says afterwards, it can't. The second daughter can't get married until the first daughter's married. So, in some sense, Leah may be part of this theoretical sequencing of events that makes it possible, and as a byproduct also gets something that she would like too, because once she's been in bed with him, she's a wife. So she does two things: she gets what she wants, and she allows her sister to follow in her tracks.
Well, 7 years later.
No, but it's not. See, that's what's interesting to me. It's a week later.
I understand. Yeah, he can really have access to her. He still has to work the 7 years.
7 year work.
Good point. Yes, David, absolutely. So, Leah,
I have a comment.
I see your hand, and I'm always happy to see you, Abby. Absolutely, please.
Maybe she wanted to have children. She wanted to get pregnant.
Yes.
And then if she gets pregnant with him, then, he's the father of her children.
Yeah, so she wins.
Yeah, she wins.
Do you want to
think?
Do you want to answer me, Abby? Tell me about relationships between brothers and sisters in the book of Genesis.
Well, I think it mirrors my family. A lot of sibling rivalry and jealousy and always wanting to have what the other wants.
It's pretty awful, right?
Yeah, really bad. And the parents are not good because the parents also enable this.
Yes, yes, and yes. So sibling rivalry, Leah, her sister is going to be so happy. What do you think Leah is thinking as she enters into Jacob's tent that night?
She won.
Or, I'm going to have to fix Rachel tomorrow, but this is not going to be a secret. Not going to be a secret. She was a knowing part of a fraud. She knew that Jacob disliked her. Actually, I'm being kind, but the Torah text says, Sanua, Jacob hated her. She knew that. And yet, when the opportunity presented itself, she crawled into bed with Jacob. Now, sometimes men in the Torah are not presented in the best light. That is such an understatement. Okay, so Abraham says, "Oh, Sarah's my sister. Go ahead, sleep with her." Isaac, Rebecca, pretty much the same story. Jacob, he won Father of the Year in raising his sons so that they become murderers of one of their own. Okay? The men, we worship them. Elohei Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. We mention them in our prayers all the time. And these are not always great people. Jacob got in bed with Leah and thought she was Rachel. I am not going to ask any personal comments here. I want no responses. Are women so interchangeable? This one, that one. Oh, you're Rachel. You have all the features I need. Just lie there. I'll take care of you. And you're probably Rachel. I saw a hand go up. This is just David, please.
I want to put a slightly less bad twist on that. Another way you could read that is that beauty doesn't matter. It is that these characteristics, this characteristic, one is beautiful, one is not beautiful, that beauty is in fact evanescent. in some sense. And going back to the question you had before about what is Rachel, what do we know about Rachel other than she has this physical perfection? She's also really crafty. She steals the household gods and sits on them and hides them from her father. So the sisters are trickier than the simple version of it.
Okay, I want you all please to remember, we're talking about the founders of our people here, okay? And that's really, yeah, Rachel continues the family trend of cheating, right? And thank God Leah was a partner in that as well. We understand all that. She knew she was a fraud. Jacob, it says here, after the party, in the morning, look, what does the Hebrew say? Vahiva boker, and it was morning. V'hinei hi Leah. And behold, this is Leah. So, oh my God, the dawn broke, the flap of the tent was open, and he looked around and he found Leah of weak eyes. What have you done to me? Why did you do this? And then Laban presents, well, you know that in our tradition, I can't have you marry the younger daughter first. Laban forgot to mention that 7 years ago, but had a moment of ethical clarity. There's something else here that we have to pin down as a major Genesis theme. Blindness. There is blindness everywhere. And it's fascinating. So Jacob was blind. Jacob was blind. Good news, Isaac was blind, right? And blessing Jacob and Esau and the whole business and the fur and the thing, he was blind. There's blindness everywhere. Risa.
I have a question that now is a little bit off subject, but verse 24.
Yes.
In the Women's Torah commentary, the translation is in parens. Why would that be?
And read the sentence.
And Laban gave his maid Zilpah to his daughter Leah to be her maid.
Yes, that's
It's
what
in, it's in parens.
Oh, in parens. Okay.
Yeah.
And
is it just because it interrupts the story, or?
It's a literary thing, Reese. There's nothing in the Hebrew text that calls for it. In other words, the Hebrew text, Vayavoy had sex with her, and Laban gave her Zilpah, the maidservant. No,
right.
There's no indication in the text that this is a parenthetical thing. That's sort of like an editorial.
That's all. Okay. I thought, all right. Sorry.
Okay. No, I'm not sorry you asked me a question I could answer. Okay, so the good news about Leah having sex, this is a Black Friday comment. When you have sex with someone, there are no returns. You can't go back to Amazon and say, wrong woman, give me my money back. Or wrong person, I don't want to be married to her. The moment he slept with her, he is married to her. So that resolves that problem immediately. No returns. no returns. And then I want to point to what David offered, and I think it's really important because we forget it. Laban says, we don't do this, verse 27, fulfill the additional 7 years, and then, you can have Rachel. Now, verse 28 is often forgotten, but David was right. The Hebrew, Vayas Yaakov Ken. Jacob did what he was asked. He's a good camper. Vayamalei Shva Zot. He fulfilled the editors play a game here. Vayas Yaakov Ken, and Jacob did what he was asked. Vayamalei Shvua Zot. The Hebrew says, and this week was fulfilled. Shavua is a week. Vayiteno rachabito lo leisha. The English says, Jacob did so. He fulfilled this additional term of 7 years. Where is 7 years mentioned in the Hebrew? Answer, it's not. So this is an editorial revision to make the story fit the way the editor wanted to read it. But it looks like after the wedding feast of a week and all, the stuff that goes on, Jacob and Rachel were married, and he owed 7 years going forward. Okay, I see Fern. Hi, Fern.
I just wanted to go back to the subject of blindness and wondering if it's interpreted, the various blindnesses are interpreted as a commentary that we are self-fooling or that we're intentionally so. And in other words, is it critical or an excuse?
What do you think? What do you think?
Well, it feels, given how patriarchal and adoring of our patriarchs we are and wanting to tell the story in that way, I would guess that it is providing an excuse, a legitimate excuse, even though it appears, in this conversation to be pretty intentional.
All I can do with this kind of stuff, Fern, I can't be definitive because it doesn't make for definitive. But what do I think? I think that the editors of Torah wanted to embed the reality of human blindness every place they could. That's what I think. I think that the editors liked blindness as a metaphor for the human condition. And okay, I guess I have barking disagreement. Does anyone else want to comment on that? Fern's question is ripe, rich. It's important. Anyone else want to jump on that? Why the blindness? Larry, are you in for that or for something else?
Yeah, I am in for that. The lawyer in me sees a little bit of this as rule following, but not necessarily. I mean, with Jacob and Esau, it was the rule that the firstborn son has the birthright. But, we can get around that some way if we just sort of pretend things aren't the way they really are. And here, again, there's this crazy rule about the first daughter having to be married first. And geez, everybody knew for 7 years, gosh, we got to marry off Leah under this rule before Jacob can marry Rachel, but nobody shows up to marry Leah for those 7 years. So this is just what you got to do. And you just you got to get through it. And it's just sort of a way to accommodate rules that don't make sense. And that's sort of what we do.
Wow. We're going to have a whole session on ethics and the law. Yeah, okay, thank you. We're running out of time, unfortunately, but Abby, please.
I forgot to lower my hand.
Oh, okay.
What's the question?
What are you painting or what are you doing? Did I lose her? Abby again? Okay. She's doing some artwork there.
Showing you.
That's super. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, Rebecca, we got to move away from Rebecca. We're already into Rachel and Leah.
Hi.
Okay.
And this is where the saying came, love is blind.
Oh, good for you.
If you combine blindness, willful blindness, with the use of denial to get past problems that we confront, it is a major mechanism of adjusting. We sometimes look at things and we refuse to see what we know we are seeing. Isn't denial then just another form of blindness? Okay, Fern, you opened a big topic. Okay.
Yeah, it just seems to me that the interpretation of that they meant it to illustrate, the point feels lost to me when these people are mythologized as being. There's no hint of the disapproval of the idea that he was willfully blind. I don't read that. We're reading it in, we're putting it in so that it comes out to be not a serious belief that they were really blind, but it reads like they seriously, he didn't notice. That's how it reads. And everything else which is glopping on it to make us feel better.
I'm going to say something privately just to you. If you would read, if you would read the Torah without an interpretation, let's say you from a foreign culture, you just read the Torah, and then try to describe Moses as the founder of the Jewish people, the great rabbi, teacher, morality, whatever. Sometimes Moses is quite ugly.
But they show that. They do show that.
They don't admit to it. They don't admit to it. The mythologizing takes Moses and makes him Moses. But
yeah,
there's so much in Moses's life which could use a little bit of correcting. I mean, we pass by the killing of the Egyptian. Hey, he deserved it, or whatever. I mean, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and I don't think he was very nice to the people when he says, oh, when they were in the desert. He wasn't, I didn't think he was that nice of a leader.
Okay, we are not dumping on Moses today. We are not dumping on Moses, but Fern's comment is so important to us because the people we mention in our prayers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, are the mythologized versions, the cleansed versions of the people we meet in the actual text. And I want to say, in defense of that process, Judaism grew that way by coming across obstacles, twisting them to meet the needs of the next generation and moving forward.
Then I would conclude that the Torah itself is a lot more interesting and evolved than our prayers, which could use a whole lot of nuance that that the Torah provides to us?
Yes. No, I'm not even going to back away from that, Fern. That's a yes. And that the people, and this would pretty much be into the Orthodox traditionalist position, the people who read the Torah read it with blinders on, unless they do what we're doing. And then they encounter the people in the prayers, and everything makes sense. It all works, unless you raise questions for which we are famously criticized for. So we're going to look at Rachel and Leah. We're going to look at these people. My book, which is a superb book, okay, Reforming Judaism, mentioned that. What does it mean that Jews created Judaism with impossible skill, moving past what all that you pointed out and weaving together a magnificent tradition? But the original pieces aren't nearly as pretty as what tradition evolved and shaped them into being.
But much more interesting.
We are the product of 3,500, here's the book, 3,500 years of Jews doing just that. That's the miracle. That's the survival. No one among us would ever. Do you know the last time I told a seeker, someone come, Rabbi Davids, I'm not a religion, whatever. How do I get? I have never in my life said, pick up the Bible and read it. Never. Though in certain traditional Christian settings, that is precisely what would be said. But I can't send someone into the Torah and say, this is who we are, because it's not. Now that I've committed blasphemy and totally assailed the structures of Jewish belief, we are going to go to Kaddish. I hope I can open this, Don. I'm pushing it. I didn't get the Kaddish list, and I'm hoping, oh, it's here. Okay, so I am not seeing you, but I am seeing the Kaddish list. So we are going to go to Kaddish. Thank you and love, and we're going to move forward. This was great today, but please don't quote me. That would be too dangerous. We mentioned those who have died during this past week. This is past 30 days. William Bernkrant, Nan Bustroff, Lisa Cohn, Ralph Foxman, Michael Harris, Renee Dunya-Holly, Stephen Loeb, Adrian Sobel, Gary Winnick. And we mentioned the anniversaries of whose deaths are observed at this time: Sam Adlin, Celia Adler, Julius Adler, Abe Alex, Barbara Alpert, Sarah Ansel, Thelma Berkowitz, Marie Berman, Faye Albin Blonick, Yehuda Budel, Ralph Bookman, Bloom Boville, Joseph Brandis, Leo Brandis, Arthur Brown, Evelyn Buckspan, Rose Casper, Earl Cherniak, Ruth Rebecca Cohn, Lillian Cohn, Alvin Dishler, Lillian Dishler, Albert Dorskin, Ruth Dubin, Charles Engler, Sanford Fagadav, Betty Feldman, William Finning, Gisa Fish, Paul Fisher, Rachmel Fogel, Robert Franke, Melanie Friestadt, Linda Gatchett, Charles Gelfand, Shirley Glick, Lawrence Gluckham, Martin Goldman, Sam Gordon, Abraham Gordon, Shirley Gordon, Lisa Gruner, Sherry Grush, Joseph Haddad, Yafa Haig, Nasa Saded, Richard Heller, Rose Hankowski, Margaret Joshny, Shirley Jacobson, Max Kaplan, David Carney, Bess Katzinger, Richard Harold Kent, Meyer Kessler, Kara Koswar, Arnold Krull, Charles Leonard Levin, Nat Levy, Peter Lewis, Lois Liebhaber, Pearl Lindheim, Sarah Lipo, Lynn Lipson, Erna Levis, Sheldon Luloff, Ruth Majofis, Gertrude Morantz, Edward Massey, Arlene Matthews, Rita Medway, Neil Mendelson, Daniel Miller, Joseph Mittler, Marie Moran, Harry Morton, Bernice Parker, Joan Perlmutter, Sharon Platt, Pearl Post, Mary Prell, Maury Redman, Ronald Relkin, Francis Richter, Sanford Rosenbaum, John Rosenblum, Howard Ross, Aaron Rothenberg, Alpha Marie Russell, Benjamin Sachs, Yedidia Salah, Carol Actor, Nancy Schmidt, Mary Schaefer, Martin Schwartz, Yakutiel Zvi Scholpete, Goldie Silverstein, Ivan Sloan, George Smith, Ruben Stillivan, Martha Strauss, Herman Sugarman, Bernard Tuman, Beverly Varani, Leslie Weitzman, Frederick Wolf, Hannah Wolf, Leora Wolf, Marjorie Usam, Charles Zlotkin, Jack Zeisman. If there are other names to be remembered at this time, I would ask that you speak those names aloud now, or to bear them in your hearts. We obviously call to mind as well those who were victims of the slaughter on October 7th, all those who have died in the conflict since then, the innocent victims and the not innocent victims. We mention all those who died in defense of the state of Israel, those who died in defense of the United States, those who died through senseless acts of terror, those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. All in our hearts, we join together in Kaddish. Yitgadal.
Kadash. Shmei Rava.
Yalma.
Yalma Divara Surute. Yadlik Mahute. Ayechon Biomechon.
V'chaye
Dechol Beit Yisrael.
Ba'gala.
Ba'gala Usman Kari.
Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach. Le'olam Le'omaya. Yitbarach. Shabbat. V'yitraham. V'yitromam. V'yitnaseh. V'yitadar. V'yitalev. V'yitalal. Shemei Dekudisha. Barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Damiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God, who makes peace in the high places, make peace in our hearts, make peace in our homes, make peace in the household of Israel, make peace among all the families and nations of earth, and let us say,
Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom, my friends. Have a good week. May it be
Shabbat shalom. Thank you.
a good week.
Shabbat shalom.
Sorot tovot. Good news. We could use good news. Shabbat shalom and love, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Be well, all of you.
You too.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Okay, we got all back. Okay. All right. Shabbat shalom.